It's Q&A time again. I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening. If you enjoy our videos, please do subscribe to the channel. Right, let's get on to the questions. Hi Rosie, I've got a question about mulch. If the buds get mulched with suggested thickness of 2 to 3 inches, will this prevent self-seeding? I know how important it is to mulch, but I have plants in my beds like Digitalis, Aquilegia and Geranium. We're very happy for them to self-seed around the garden. Many thanks. In answer to your question, yes. When you put on a large amount of mulch to the depth that is required, then self-seeders do struggle. Their seed, because their seed sits on the surface of the soil and you've just covered it over, it means that their germination is restricted. However, when that mulch gets sort of moved around, maybe you rake it around or it gets disturbed, then you can get seeding happening then. So you do have this problem whereby people can mulch too much and the soil becomes really rich, and then your plants become huge, they become floppy because they have got too much in the way of nutrients and moisture there for them to grow. So there is this happy medium, and I'm almost of the opinion that you should give them a good mulch once every other year, unless you've got incredibly poor soils, in which case you might just have to give a little bit more. But if you have areas where plants are not growing as well and you're on a year when you aren't mulching, then just mulch around those plants that are suffering, such as a few shrubs or some roses, and give them their individual. Then you've got the clear space and these self-seeders will be able to come through and germinate. Otherwise, always collect a little bit of seed from the self-seeders so that you can start a few off. I hope that helps you. Hi Rosie, thank you for your channel. I bought a few xeric plants like desert salvias. Springs here in Ohio, zone 6, are usually wet, so I am planning to have the plants in the pots until summer. How do I make a potting mix for xeric plants? Okay, so these are dry loving plants. They also do get water at certain times, so you will be doing that by giving them a water in their pots. What they don't want to do though is sit in soggy soil or compost. So you need to add in a good amount of grit. And I would say that if you can do up to 50-50 grit to compost, I would use your own soil if you possibly can as your potting medium or your own grown compost, because that then will be easier for the plants when you transfer them from the pot into the garden. They will have the same type of mycelium in the soil and everything else, so that the bacteria and the fungi that are in the soil from your own garden will then be there in the pot that the plant is growing in, so they're going straight into something very similar so they don't get a shock. Do be careful though that if you're going to go into your soil when it's slightly drier and you've taken them from a container where they are looked after, that you will still have to give them a little bit of water initially when you put them in so that they get away and do well. So just be careful when you actually do that transfer over into the dry soils. But certainly up to 50-50 grit and compost will give you a really good free draining type of material for them to go into. Hi, I'm looking for advice for a school garden raised bed area, wanting tumbling plants. Some of them are for the sun and some are for the shade. Possibly evergreen, flowers, needing these to be open in school term time. And the soil has literally been thrown together. And from what I can gather from this, you have literally just filled up bits with whatever you've had and then filled up another bit. So it could be really good soil, it could be really bad soil, it could be topsoil from somewhere else, and it could be compost from somewhere else, which means it's not really mixed. So you're just going to have to find plants, one, that will grow in virtually anything. So they are heading on being thuggy plants, because that way they will survive the conditions. Find ones which are evergreen and do have a flower. You cannot always guarantee that they are going to flower at the time that you require them to, but try. So you'll need some spring flowering things and you'll need some autumn flowering things early summer, because remember, middle of the summer, school's not there. So for the shade areas, I would go for things like vinca or ajuga. There are some beautiful new vincas out there which aren't as extravagant in the way that they go, but again, they're easy to manage because you can cut them back if they are a nuisance, but they're evergreen. The ajugas are good also. Then for your sunnier spots, I would suggest something like Aubrietia, maybe the Diacia. Now I know that's an annual, or it is perennial, but it depends on the situation, but it's really good flowerer. Other than that, something like Geranium and Thompson, which will flower and flower and flower. If you enjoy learning about gardening from me, then why not take a look at my propagation workshop? This is an online course, and this is all about herbaceous perennials. So you are going to learn all of the skills that are required to propagate more plants from your garden for free. For more information, please click the link in comments below. Or you can scan the QR code on the screen right now. Hi Rosie, I have a small pot of Iris reticulata. They were originally sold in a supermarket. I got them for 10p. Brilliant. That's the way to get them, isn't it? Put them in gritty compost, see what happened. They're coming into flower. Some appear to be blind. Should I feed them to encourage better flower for next year? Okay, so yes, in short question, you should be feeding them. All things which are bulbs need to get food down into the bulb to make the bulb stronger so that it's better for the following year. Now it's only going to store stuff in that bulb when it is actively growing. So as soon as you see shoots coming through, or even just before they should be coming through, then they should be having food. So if you're potting them in containers, give them a slow release fertilizer. That way they will be able to draw the food as they require it. If you haven't got that, then as soon as you see them breaking through the surface, start to give them something like a liquid feed or sulfate of potash. Sulfate of potash is a really good basic feed for giving to anything like this, because it will give them what they require in the way of potassium, which is what they need for the flowering. So basically all the time that they have got greenery, flowers and even dying greenery up above the ground, feed them and then allow them to go dormant, and then in the following year they should come through perfectly well. Now sometimes when there are blind bulbs, it is that they aren't mature enough to flower. So just be aware that sometimes those bulbs will split, and when they are then smaller sizes, those will take another year to be big enough, mature enough to then flower the following year. But certainly feeding will help. Hi Rosie, will you be participating in the Chelsea Flower Show this year? Okay, so the quick answer is no, I won't be. I retired from doing displays at Chelsea Flower Show after 2019. So that was me building the displays for Hardy's Cottage Garden Plants. That means that Hardy's Cottage Garden Plants, as a nursery doing their own display, has actually finished. However, you can still see Hardy's Cottage Garden Plants at Chelsea, and they have been there year after year, right the way through, including last year, because we supply plants to show gardens. And so you will be able to see that. And if you want to know which show gardens we are supplying for, take a look at our website and you will see that there is a list of people that we are supplying plants for this coming Chelsea Flower Show 2025. Good morning. I want to grow 8 foot to 10 foot wide dense lush panel of Trachelospermum jasminoides. That should smell beautifully. How many plants to achieve this effect? I'm tempted to use 3 spaced over a 6 foot length, and then it will go up the fence and create a good screen. But you're saying you don't want to create a monster. Now, Trachelospermum jasminoides grown in the right place can make a really good big plant, but it can take quite a while. So I think your idea of 3 spaced out along the 6 foot would work really, really well. And then all you have to do is train it up. If you've got limbs coming out, you wind them back in. Occasionally you may need to do a little bit of pruning, but very, very little. They don't require a lot. Usually you would prune out anything that is dead, anything that is damaged, and basically let them get on with them. If they do happen to become a little bit too invasive and getting really on top of themselves, you can give them a very hard prune, but you would do that in the late spring, and then they'll come back up and get away for you. So it is perfectly possible to look after them, giving them the odd haircut every now and again, and they will be fine for you. Hello, I would love to buy Euonymus for autumn-winter interest in pots next to the door, shade, or also in full sun. But there are so many different choices, I'm kind of lost. Please, can you give me an overview? Right, this is incredibly difficult because you say you're in zone 7 and it's changing to 8, but which means you're hot and dry climate. So therefore you've got probably different Euonymus from what we have here in the UK. I would say there are 3 points that you need to think about when you are choosing that plant for you to grow in your containers. One is decide on the leaf colour. Do you want it to be a plain colour? So do you want it to be a green? Do you want it to be a yellow? What is the colour that you want? Or do you want it to be variegated? The next thing is, how big do you want that plant to become once it is mature? So do you want it to stay as a nice small plant, compact, or do you want it to get much larger, which you'll then have to do a bit of pruning on? These are things that you need to be thinking about. And then you think about which of those is going to go in your shade and which is going into your sun. So I hope that helps you with how to choose from all of those beautiful plants that are out there. Hi Rosie, I have some offshoot bulblets from my ballerina tulips. How do I get these to grow into large productive bulbs? Do I leave them in the ground, feed continuously through the next 12 months, or should I lift and store them at the end of spring and replant again each autumn? Thank you. So normally when you're using tulips, you would buy new ones every year because then you know you're reliably going to get beautiful flowering tulips. Now, they are all going to grow, they're all going to give little bulblets, and you can then get those into flower. It will take approximately 3 to 4 years for those bulblets to get to a mature size, which will then flower. You can lift them and store them once flowering has finished and they have gone back down. Put them quite deep when you replant them in the autumn, at least 8 inches down, and then give them some food. You can get good bulb food, which will be absolutely fine, and that needs to go in there. You can leave some out in the ground, but usually what happens is you would just buy new ones because they are there to be able to they are easy to get hold of. But if you want to try and get your bulblets to grow, then do it that way, absolutely. But feeding is a necessity. They need to have food from when their roots start to go down in the autumn right the way through to when they come through to flowering. So a good feed when you plant them 8 inches down in the ground, and then see what happens. But give them time. I was looking to mulch my flower beds over winter with cow manure as I have it available to me. What's the minimum age that animal manure should be used as a mulch? As in, when will it stop harming your plants? Right. It is not a good idea to use fresh animal manure, and especially cow manure. There are 2 reasons. One, it will scorch the roots because it's so high in nutrition. It will scorch the roots of young plants. 2, there is also the problem that there could still be E. coli within that product. So therefore you don't want to be spreading that around the garden. Basically, you should put it somewhere where it gets all the elements to it. So it gets rain on it, it gets sun on it, it gets snow, frost on it, etc. And a minimum of 6 months old before you start using it on your garden. With the leaves on mulched and falling onto borders, I'm quite happy to leave them there, but I do like to see dark soil in the summer. I have clay soil, so therefore it's good for them to actually keep the leaves there. Right, what am I doing? Do I want to take the leaves off or leave it with leaves all season? Well, basically, when your leaves fall down onto the borders and you're just leaving them there, Most of what will happen through the winter is the worms, the beetles, any other bugs that are around will start moving them. They will start taking them down into the soil, and you won't have that much left on the top as you get through to the middle of spring. So therefore, if you've still got a bit and you do like to see the soil and dark soil there, please don't just mulch, put a covering of compost over the top of that. That won't do any good, because what will happen is once the leaves are no longer getting full air on them and they become that aerobic, they get really horrible and greasy and make a nasty sort of layer underneath. So if you're wanting to make it look good and dark, then just rake the worst of the leaves to the back where you won't see them, or take them to your compost heap then, whatever is left, and then make your borders look really smart and tidy. But leave them for as long as possible, and please don't cover them over. If you need to, take the worst that you've got left to the compost heap, or just push them to the back, but don't cover them over with anything else. Someone else also asking about leaves, and they've got oak trees, consequently lots of oak leaves, and read they're not very good for the soil. Now, the reason why oak leaves are considered not good for the soil is that they are very high in tannins, and those tannins will go into the soil and it will change how the soil works. But they're not necessarily bad for the soil, it's a different structure. Because of the tannins, and the reason why we have leather and it's tannined, because it makes it last for longer. So those leaves don't break down as well. So if you have oak leaves and you have a shredder, try and put them through a shredder, because once they're smaller pieces, they will start to break down just that bit better. If you have them down on the garden, leave them there for the winter to act as a suppressant for weeds, act as a non-moisture coming out of the soil, and then rake them off, shred them up, put them into your compost, but mix them. Do not just put them lock, stock and barrel into your compost heap as one solid lump. They need mixing with all sorts of other things so that they are breaking down. So especially grass cuttings, mix them with grass cuttings, mix them with all sorts of other type of green material. That way they will break down and make a much better mulch for you. Once they have mulched down, they are a brilliant mulch, but they just take time. So they will take 3 to 4 years to break down, whereas some of the leaves will break down in 1 year. So that's the reason, but shredding will help. And, you know, yes, don't have as many concentrated there, but allow them to do their job to start off with, then clear away in the spring. So basically spring cleaning, not autumn cleaning. And hopefully the worms will have done some good and taken some down into the soil as well. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to watch another video of mine, YouTube thinks this one is perfect for you.